under 10.5 on the line.
You have to be the biggest, dumbest idiot.
Josh Allen inside the 10, inside 5, touchdown, game over.
Going into the draft, I was a big Penix guy. I'm still a big Penix guy.
Rashee Rice is way ahead of schedule in his ACL rehab, which is good news for his fantasy managers because the Dallas court system is way behind schedule. That's also good news for local comedian Miles Francis. Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him. We have just seen the first 2 weeks of the preseason for the NFL, and we must now adjust the rankings, and that's what we're here to do. The rookie Superflex Dynasty rankings. I am sitting here with none other than film demon Ryan Perrio. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Gotta go get my tools for this readjustment. Gotta get some wrenches. Gotta make some adjustments here.
I had to get some power tools out for some guys because there are, I think, 2 guys on the top 24 list that we are gonna reveal today that I had not on my radar one bit.
Well, probably go find some players that nobody had on their radar.
There are some people who claim that these guys were on their radar pre-draft. We all know they're liars. And if they did, they were like, this guy is not even the top 30 pick. But they mentioned him on their podcast, so they're going to take some victory laps on that. And we have guys that are falling big time, guys I was really excited about. Now we have some red flags that we are going to react to tonight. This is great, obviously, if you have not done your Superflex Dynasty rookie drafts yet, which it is kind of crazy. Most rookie drafts, they either happen immediately after the real life NFL draft for Dynasty Fantasy Football, or some leagues, they wait forever. My first point of view on that would mean you have so much more information about those rookies at that time. Those draft picks become way more valuable in those leagues versus the leagues where I'm used to drafting in, where we do it directly after the draft. So that I think that's the more fun way to do it, is right after the draft, because you can kind of have your players stick to them in the long run, do or die. Mm-hmm. There are some freaks of nature who do this before the draft, before anybody's even drafted, to which I'm like, you have to be out of your mind. Like, you're going to end up with Troy Franklin in the first and 6th overall in your rookie drafts if you draft that way, or, you know, Quinshon Judkins or whatever, God forbid.
Tez Johnson.
There's a lot of red flags that you get immediately following the draft that I think makes it fun and fair enough. But anyways, if you're rookie drafts, if you're still in a startup draft, or if you haven't done your startup draft, you're about to do your startup draft, this is going to be pivotal, crucial for you. Or if you're doing a long startup draft and you're getting into the later rounds and you're looking for some diamonds in the rough, probably in the second round range, in the 13 to 24 range, we're going to find you some amazing values. Also along the way, we are going to do some buy lows and sell highs and all of these candidates. If you are looking to make a trade, if you goofed up in the draft, or if you're looking to make some improvements already, this program is for you. And we are going to start today with my pre-draft Superflex rankings, and we are going to compare this to my current rankings. So the biggest risers and the biggest fallers that I had pre-draft. My pre-draft rankings: Tier 1, by himself, Ashton Genty. Tier 2, Cam Moore, Jackson Dart. Tier 3, Cabela McMillan, Cam Scadaboo, Marion Hampton, Caleb Johnson. Tier 4, Kyle McCord, Trey Harris, Harold Fannin, Tyler Warren. Tier 5, Travis Hunter, Mecca Buka, Jaden Higgins, Colson Loveland. Tier 6, Shador Sanders, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Luther Burden. Tier 7, Matthew Golden, Kyle Williams, Woody Marks, Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shuck. So those are my top 24. Pre-draft, obviously, I'm going to be a lot higher on a lot of those guys, and I'm going to be a little bit lower on some of those guys who I had way high up in my pre-draft rankings. Ryan Perrio, how excited are you for this?
Pumped. Right, let's go. Let's do it.
So let's start with guys who are no longer on the list. And Ryan Perrio, because I know you want to talk about a few of them. Guys that are just outside, or guys that fell outside of my top 25 that were currently or pre-draft in my top 25. Efton Chisholm, a guy you needed me to bring up pre-conversation. Bill Krosky-Merritt. We are not I do not have him in my top 24 for this draft. We want to say a couple words about him. Quinshon Judkins, I wasn't super duper high on pre-draft. I now have him entirely outside of my top 24 for obvious reasons. Tyler Shuck was 24 overall for me. Doesn't sound good out of Saints camp. Sounds like he's losing a quarterback battle to Spencer Rattler, which is never a good sign for your dynasty outlook. Kyle McCord, no longer in my top 24. I was the highest guy on Kyle McCord in fantasy football pre-draft. He's obviously on the Philadelphia Eagles now behind two of the best quarterbacks in the league. So not a great sign there. Torrey Horton, if this was a top 25 list, I think he might be my 25th. Isaiah Bond obviously just got signed by the Browns. He's not in my top 24. And Woody Marks would be my handful of honorable mentions. You want to say a few words about Efton Chisholm or anybody else?
Well, Efton Chisholm has just kind of arrived on the scene these last two preseason games with a lot of savvy. Like, he just kind of reminds you of either like a I would say Adam Thielen more than anything.
I knew you were going to say white guy. You had to say white guy.
Well, just because I'm thinking undrafted guys that literally you like nowhere. Like, this is I'm looking at fellow undrafteds that have just kind of.
Was Tyler Lockett highly drafted?
He was a third rounder.
Third rounder? Okay.
Because we Texans were trying to draft him, and I think Seattle jumped in front of us to draft him, and then we had to draft a kid from Arizona State, Jaden, who turned out he looked good, but then just got in trouble with the law one too many times, and it's never a good sign when you're at your home state and you're busted for a trunk load of pot.
That was my Quinshon. Yeah, Quinshon Judkins also fell in my top 24 for the exact same reason. Yeah, anyway, sorry to interrupt you on Efton Chisholm.
Very good route runner, just very like kind of out of the same college, I believe Cooper Kupp, came out of, and kind of has
hilarious.
Kind of like I said, similar, because I think he's from Southern Utah, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think, but he's basically just been like the safety blanket for Drake May the first two preseason games. He's
Washington, way off Ryan Perrio.
Eastern Washington, sorry. I was like, I know it was
far off.
Sorry, it's a Tuesday. I'm just so hyped for the rest of these players, but he's just really is. He's one of those guys that I could see being the Patriots wide receiver 3 or 4, just because he's going to be that underneath forgotten man that just gobbles up plays. He might be if he's still available in your league, he might be a sneaky good pickup for a team that's probably going to run through a lot of their roster to try to find people that stick.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Speaking of which, guys who might still be on your waiver wire, depending on how deep your leagues are, I would definitely take a peek at Kyle McCord if he's not at least on somebody's taxi squad. Stash him on your taxi squad. I wouldn't be looking to jump at the opportunity to get Isaiah Bond, but obviously Bill Krosky Merritt. If you don't have him on your taxi squad and he is available, I just dump all your fab on them. And that's one thing I think a lot of people make mistakes on, is just not using their fab when they need it. Obviously, fab is like budget that you get throughout the season. If you play Dynasty, I think virtually all Dynasty leagues use a fab system to do their bidding. When you have especially deep leagues, like I don't have any fab right now. And I think I have one fab out of 100 in one of my leagues, because I picked up guys who will be later featured on this list. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Deontay Thornton, and who else did I pick up with my other? Oh, KLS. Were both available, and guys bid like $2 on them. Like you're never going to use all of your fab throughout a dynasty season if you spend it like that, because there's only so many guys that are going to be available in like 36-man leagues with IDPs and everything like that. So go ahead and spend up your fab. It's virtually useless, and if you're really worried about it, you can add it in a trade later on to get an extra 5 or 10 fab if you need it. Anyways, any other words? Torrey Horton, we should probably talk about. Seahawks obviously looks really, really good. Like I said, looks
really running with the first team. Looks really good. Looks like he could be the kind of the young gun and the with the Elijah Arroyo kind of being the guys that end up being the guys they go to at the end of the season while they kind of get these veterans, figure out if these veterans have anything left in the tank, and Cooper Kupp, and
Torrey Horton looks fine. Cooper Kupp, we haven't seen. He's a sneaky fella, though. You don't really know where to draft him. You don't know how it's going to go in Seattle. New quarterback, new team, new situation for everybody who's involved. So, we'll see how it goes over there in Seattle. But let's get talking about our list. Adjust the rankings, and we are going to start with no adjustment out of me. Tier 1 by himself, Ashton Jeanty. You can't make an argument to me that would be compelling to get him outside of the first tier. Now, Ryan Perrio, I think in the near future, is going to argue that some people I have in my tier 2 in a Superflex Dynasty startup or Superflex Dynasty rookie draft should be in tier 1. And I just think Ashton Jeanty is undeniable. We did have a few fake panic attacks, a few trolls, I would say, on social media after week 1 when he went for 3 carries for -1 yard in his preseason opener. Who cares? I guarantee you.
You don't take a Ferrari to the grocery store. Okay.
95% of the people who were making a big deal out of that, making fun of his division, oh, it's tough in the real league now. It's all right, relax. But and by the way, on one of those carries that he lost 3 yards on, he did have a sweet spin move where he should have lost 6, got hit in the backfield. So it did shine a little bit. I did notice week 2 when he obviously played much better. Now that we're talking about it, his stance, he was kind of crouched forward in week 1, and in week 2 started to get a little bit more straight, stood up in that backfield. So something to keep an eye on.
He needs to also work on that for film's sake. He definitely needs to work on that because you can't be letting people know that you're gonna be carrying the ball at the pro level. I mean, college level, when you're playing at Boise State, maybe you can still take those guys on. Say, yeah, I'm coming. What are you going to do about it? NFL will have a gang. We'll bring a gang tackle.
So are you team pre-snap? Ashton Jeanty should be standing upright or crouched.
I think he should pick one and stick with it. So that
I think they should let him. I think they should let him stand how he wants to. That's just me.
As a coach, I would rather him pick one way so that there's deception that
Well, Ryan Perry, the story that he wanted to stand up tall in all of his pre-draft meetings. That's what he said when he came into the facility. Running backs coaches you got to crouch because that's how you play basketball. You got to crouch, and that's why you got to get in that stance. And Ashton Jeanty's I'm not going to get in a fight with my new running backs coach over this on day 1, even though I'm 8th drafted overall.
Yeah. I'm just saying for the play calling perspective, so that there's not any kind of that he's not leaving it. Yeah, leaving keys on film to potentially hinder his production.
I don't think he's doing any tells. I think he's standing how he wants to stand. Moving on to tier 2. Same ranking as before, same tier as before. Have not changed my opinion on this guy since pre-draft. Cam Ward, my second off the board. Obviously, QB and Superflex is really, really important. Already a leader on the team. Now, if you, after practice as a rookie quarterback, really give your team a talking to, like Cam Ward was kind of seen giving his team a talking to. Don't really know the exact words. Don't know the situation there. But important to note that if it doesn't go well early on, especially if he's not playing well, that could be a really bad situation very, very quickly. If a rookie's coming in talking down to you and then he sucks, that's not a good sign. But if it works, if he plays well, he'll just be chewing out his 10-year veterans on the sideline for seasons to come. I think the biggest winner in this Cam Ward situation is going to be Calvin Ridley. I think he's just due for an insane season. So I've been drafting him in redraft everywhere I can. Probably a win now, buy low candidate in line for an excellent season. I think Calvin Ridley. Ryan Perro, your take on Cam Ward?
I think he's an excellent quarterback. I would also put a weathered eye on Gunnar Helm, as he seems to be kind of his safety valve. And 4 catches, 48 yards in the second preseason game is, again, it's not nothing to sneeze at. So Gunnar Helm's kind of been a good big body goal line vulture. So keep an eye on him for those short yardage. If you need a TE2, he'd be a great, because for his goal line flexibility, it seems like they're definitely drawing up plays for him around inside the 5 to kind of just go down the middle and catch that ball.
So that's a rookie sleeper for you, Ryan Perrio, a guy you can stash on your practice squad, a guy that may not be rostered depending on how deep your leagues are. So check your waiver wire for Gunnar Helm, says Ryan Perrio. Good shout out there. Moving on to my number 3. He is up a tier, actually, and it's none other than Cabela, a.k.a. Tetaroa, a.k.a. T-Mac McMillan. He is up a tier for me. He's up a few spots as well. He was my pre-draft wide receiver 1. He's still my pre-draft, or he's still my wide receiver 1 post-draft. I think it's a fine landing spot. I think Bryce Young is going to bounce back. I like the trajectory of where the Panthers were heading towards the end of last season. Even though they weren't winning a ton, they were really, really fighting hard. Remind me of the Detroit Lions of just a few years ago, where they just weren't talented enough. And then you get a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown on your team. And I think Cabela McMillan could be that Amon-Ra St. Brown on this team for Bryce Young, first overall drafted quarterback at one point in his lifetime. I like Cabela McMillan, number 3, and I have him up a few spots ahead of a few other guys, Ryan Perrio.
Yeah, he struggled in against the Texans defense. Texans coverage really blanketed him very well. I felt like he really just did not have any room to breathe. And I think that's going to be something he's going to have to really learn fast, is that he's got to use his feet more to kind of generate a little bit of separation at the initial break, because they were just able to follow him like right in his hip pocket. I think his size with it being in the NFC South, like outside of Tampa Bay, I don't think there's really a team that really has, really a threat to really be a playoff team. Like Atlanta could be if they put it all together, but they just always seem to have one piece that just is broken on them every year. They just seem to either have a bad defense, they have bad tight end play, they don't have a good offense. It's just something always holds Atlanta back. So I look for Tetaroa to eat in that division, especially divisional games, where he has to play the Saints in Atlanta 2 times. So I think will have some big games there. He did look really smooth in his routes. He just needs to work a little bit on that separation on the break to really either sell the outside fake, or just that would be my one critique after watching him last weekend.
Is he still currently your wide receiver 1 in the class?
Yes, he is. Okay. He's wide receiver 1A, and then Matthew Golden's 1B, just because they're different.
And we got a long wait before Matthew Golden, and I'll let you stand for Matthew Golden. I am a big time fader of him, as you know. That's probably our biggest disagreement this whole offseason. So we'll probably never talk about it ever again after this. But anyways, moving on to my number 4, I think my highest riser in pre-draft versus after the draft and after a couple preseason games, Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State has already proved me wrong, I think. I had him all the way down foolishly at 13 overall, and now I have him all the way up to number 4 overall. And for that, Emeka Egbuka, I apologize, because I had concerns pre-draft. I thought he maybe got favorable matchups at Ohio State. I thought maybe when he was matched up against sort of NFL-style corners in the real-life league, he wasn't going to look as overwhelming of an athlete as he did in college, because he got paired up to a lot of his every targets were like he was paired up in the slot. So he ended up getting a really favorable like linebacker man-to-man matchup. And of course he just cooks the linebacker. Another Big Ten linebackers, they play a little bit of coverage here and there. He went up against some pretty good ones, but still I was like, I don't know if it's going to really translate like that in the NFL. And then he gets a great landing spot with great draft capital. I wasn't sure he was going to go first round. He ended up going first round to Tampa Bay, which is now dealing with the Chris Godwin injury. McMillan obviously fell on his neck really bad. Sounds like a really bad sprain or strain.
That was a very uncomfortable looking play.
Yeah, talk about undersized wide receivers and why we don't like them in Dynasty. I get it. That was maybe a little bit of a freak injury, but at the same time, maybe if he's 215 pounds and 6'2", when he gets hit like that, he doesn't flip head over heels and land directly on the back of his head. So another reason we really like a little bit of size, especially in Dynasty and in redraft for that matter. But now he is paired with Baker Mayfield And he's getting shining reports from camp, including from Baker Mayfield. Mr. Six himself is glowing about how this guy is mini Chris Godwin from day one. But really all I needed to see, because that's all just fluff and talk, really what I needed to see is him shine in the preseason on film. And just talk about jumping off the film. Like you kind of reminded me of Garrett Wilson when I first watched him in NFL colors. Like, I thought he was pretty good, but like I didn't think he was that good in college. He's proved me wrong already, and he's my biggest adjustment pre-draft to where we're sitting right now. Emeka Egbuka, number 4 off my board, Ryan Perrio.
I really like him. I thought maybe I would fade him a little bit because of the team he got drafted to. And I was like, with all those receivers coming back, it may be hard for him to get on the field, and then these injuries just keep piling up. But he had a play where he was running an out route and he literally dipped low, like into a slide so that he could catch the ball. Like as the receiver's trying to do this, he just dipped low and caught it. And I was like, he's one of those guys that just has moves for moves. Like if you're going to you're going to stay with him on his cut, then he's going to stop. He's going to pull a stop move. He's definitely going to be entertaining to watch in the red zone, just watching him try to work and just try to work his way open. He kind of reminds me of Hunter Renfrow when he was in his prime, just has those feet to be able to stop and change direction like absolutely effortlessly, and just seems to like absolutely lose his coverage when he does that.
Yep. And I think that's why I was too hard on him pre-draft, because I'm like, he's getting wide open, but it seems schemey to me. It seems like Ohio State scheme. And I just watched him play 3 preseason snaps, and I'm like, no, I changed my mind.
Looking at through the Spartan colored glasses you wear on college college game day.
I messed up. Yeah, Michigan State fans. So that is a good point. I'm going to hate Michigan Wolverines, and I am going to hate Ohio State wide receivers. Although I was a big Garrett Wilson stan when he was coming out, I will say that about myself. Anyways, moving on to a guy still in the same tier, but I slightly downgraded him a few spots. Jackson Dart I have still as my number 5 pre-draft. He was my QB2. He is still my QB2. I did move him down a couple of spots, because he hasn't won the starting job yet, but more importantly, he was drafted by the Giants, which I don't like that situation. I think Daboll's a lame duck head coach at the moment. Malik Neighbors is a very nice wide receiver 1 to have if you are drafted to a team. So that is a plus having Malik Neighbors. However, being on the Giants, never, ever a good thing in fantasy football. Go ahead and ask Saquon Barkley how it went for him and how it's been since. So, yes, Jackson Dart, I still believe as a talent, looks amazing in preseason. Not the best situation. So for that reason, I had to downgrade him a tad, but still 5th overall. I think still well ahead of market where he probably is going in most dynasty rookie drafts, Ryan Perrio.
To me, he's your elite stash. Like he is absolutely the stash that you're gonna love next year. If you can pick him up and stash him, he's elite level stash. I think he has a good grasp of the offense. I think they're just gonna go with Russell Wilson because they don't want to. I don't think you want to throw him out there and if it go badly, just kind of have him step backwards.
Well, especially in their early schedule, Ryan Perry.
Yeah.
This might all be, I make fun of Brian Daboll all the time, but the Giants starting schedule is looking pretty tough. They've got Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers. And then guess what? October 5th, after Russell Wilson gets benched after the Chargers game, you got the Saints sitting there for you. So I think that's part of the reason. So Jackson Dart doesn't have to go against like the Chiefs defense and the Chargers defense this year. I think it might be by design that they're going to kind of ease him in to action with the umbrella or the shade being like, well, we actually think he's a better quarterback. We just don't want to throw him out against these awesome defense.
You don't want to taint the confidence, early on. Let him just come in, play against some of the lower level NFL teams to kind of get his confidence up, and then let him take on a Dallas or a Philadelphia the next time around.
Hell yeah. Moving on to our third tier, and he is in the same rank. There's a couple people who are put up ahead of him, a couple people who kind of drop behind him. So he ends up same rank, same tier. Omarion Hampton, first round draft pick for the LA Chargers. He looked like a freak on film in North Carolina. He looks like a freak on film in the second week of the preseason. Although I will say, and this is a little bit of cope for my deepest faller that we'll talk about later, those Lions, they were ready to go. They really, really were. Like Dan Campbell, that one of the backup linebackers was like talking shit pre-joint practice with the Miami Dolphins, where he was saying, hey, these guys, I don't think they practice like us. I don't think they're going to be ready for us, especially on day one with the amount of physicality we're going to bring to this joint practice. Like, I don't think a lot of teams really practice like the Detroit Lions do. I think it is a little bit like old school, new school at the same time, because like now the research is coming out, like you kind of got to get these guys hitting in preseason to kind of build up their calluses, build up their bodies to get used to that. It's Wolf's Law. You can look it up. It's actually a real thing. Your body gets tougher if you smack it a lot of times. That's just the way it is. And AJ Hawk talks about it all the time. Like you got to build up that's what he says. He calls it like you got to build up that callus to getting hit. First round draft capital, just like I thought he would. I think he's one of the safest picks you can make in Superflex Dynasty in this middle range, especially with Najee still. I don't think he's even back at practice still yet. I think he's still dealing with that eye firework injury from the offseason. Either way, I wasn't really concerned about Najee digging into Omarion Hampton's production or volume in the first place with the first round draft capital. But now I don't even have to worry about it at all because Najee is like not healthy. So yeah. I love Omarion Hampton. I think he'll be a day one starter for you on your Dynasty Superflex roster. So taking him in the middle of the first round sounds good to me, Ryan Perrio.
I'd probably have him ranked in my tier 2. Like I think he's going to get a lot of carries on this offense. Jim Harbaugh is not shy about running the rock, and I think he will get plenty of opportunities. And I just think, especially if they're playing the Giants early in the season, like that's going to be Omarion Hampton Day, basically. Like they're going to give this guy a ton of touches because they want to keep Herbert, upright and not hurt, because once he got hurt last year, I think it really kind of sapped his effectiveness. I think that, and he had a leg injury last year where he just kept, I think it was like a foot or something like that.
I don't remember exactly what he dealt with last year. I do know towards the second half of the season, fantasy football wise, he was actually pretty darn good. Kind of after the bye, but maybe in real life he wasn't as good.
Yeah, I remember it was something along the lines like he hurt himself and it's like he couldn't get surgery, so he just had played through it, and it just kind of and then they figured out how to use Ladd McConkey, and
that was the real thing. Is once Ladd came on, Herbert came on,
and so I think Omarion Hampton should be a tier 2. I will, like I said, I understand he's top of tier 3, but I would still look at him in tier 2.
Well, I'll be interested to see how you rank this next guy, in which tier you rank this next guy. I think you were much higher on this guy pre-draft. I know you were much higher on this guy pre-draft than I was. I have him actually as a sell high candidate just because there is so much hype behind him. The hype machine, number 7, Travion Henderson, and I'm buying into the hype a little bit. I was way too low on him, and for that, I apologize. Travion Henderson, I had him at 17 overall in my Superflex pre-draft rookie rankings. I still have Omarion Hampton ranked ahead of him, and a big reason for that is I think he's at a stable position in New England. However, I don't know if that stable position is going to be conducive for him getting a lot of volume in this backfield. So we're talking about fantasy football. He actually started behind Antonio Gibson. Ramondre Stevenson didn't play. I think he was banged up or just kind of had a veterans G day in the preseason. And I don't think that was as big of a gimmick as everyone else is assuming that it is. Like, oh, we got to make the rookie earn it. I don't think that's the case. I think Antonio Gibson is actually a good running back. In fact, last season, he led the NFL in yards after contact per carry. And look at his highlight film. Like take some time sit back, relax, take 3 minutes out of your day, and just look up Antonio Gibson's highlight film from last year, because you probably weren't watching those games, and he didn't get a lot of volume, so he didn't bounce off the spreadsheets for your fantasy football team. But on film, he looks really, really good, and he's getting a lot of money for a running back, and so is Ramondre Stevenson. And I know that Vrabel likes running a running back committee if he can, and I think that's what we're going to see here is a running back committee. So if you are win now fantasy football and you have Travion Henderson on your team, I think the hype is too strong for you not to trade him for a boring veteran running back like Chuba Hubbard and then get a bunch of draft capital on the back end for it, because the hype is so high. I have him at 7. I think the draft community probably has him at 3 overall if they were to draft right now, if they were to rank right now. That's how high they are on him. So I say you go ahead and sell high if you're win now. If you are not win now, like you said, Ryan, elite stash, the most elite stash that you could think of, because the cream will rise to the top with Travion Henderson. I'm convinced of that now. I wasn't convinced of that pre-draft. I'm now thinking a little bit differently about Travion Henderson, just how he's jumping off the TV screen, Ryan Perrio.
Yeah, I think you have him right. I think I agree with this ranking pretty much. Like, it's because for him to come from, I think, what was he, the 4th or 5th running back selected, to move up to the 3rd, that's pretty impressive. Like, you're passing some impressive runners that and Caleb Johnson and stuff like that. You're leapfrogging some other people we have pretty highly ranked. It's not like it was a hard fought battle. Like, he's been really impressive. I really like the way they've used him. I feel like he could be the lead potentially, just because of the speed and the blitz pickup. I think his willingness is, I think he's definitely landed with the right coach, because I think he's one of those guys that absolutely Vrabel resonates with. Ohio State kid himself, plays with his hair on fire, like, just, chomp at the bit to get back out there. I feel like this is somebody that, just Vrabel absolutely loves, and I think he could take the lead within Gibson then being the change of pace. I was just blown away, like, how smooth he was as a runner in traffic, because I thought, you see him on tape, it's mostly wide open field, like, he gets the ball and he's running a sweep or something like that, and there's not many bodies. His goal line, his 10-yard run to the end zone, he was just in traffic the whole way and just kind of maneuvered through it, kind of little bit kind of like Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of upright, but with speed, but just had people just all around him that couldn't get into the ground.
Yeah, pre-draft Ryan Perrio, I was like, I don't think this guy is Jahmyr Gibbs like everybody's saying he was. And the NFL kind of agreed with me because he didn't go super early first round. But you're right. I mean, it is my Michigan State colored glasses, but seeing him at Ohio State just run through these giant, like when the Bengals are playing defense, these giant holes in the defensive line, and just like you got one safety to beat and you're just faster than him, so you're gonna run past him. I didn't think he quite had that shiftiness that now we're kind of seeing, like you said, with more realistic NFL looks. And that's why I think I had to adjust the rankings after seeing him in the preseason. And I don't think that's an overreaction, although I do think the community is overreacting quite a bit to what we're seeing in preseason. And that's even after me saying I just moved him up 10 spots in my ranking. So I am appropriately reacting while everyone else is freaking the hell out. So relax. Speaking of which, and Ryan Perrio, shout out to you, Film Demon, for you never let a Travion Henderson conversation end without you bringing up blitz pickup.
Oh my God, it's just so beautiful to watch. It's some of the best. Like when you see a running back just absolutely decleat a blitzing linebacker to where it looks like he was the blitzer. Like it looks like he's the guy that's coming through the hole, and he absolutely flattened that Kent State that linebacker. I mean, he's
blitzing the linebackers. He's making the linebackers think twice
Yeah,
He's
he
getting
is.
body blows. You know how like Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry or David Montgomery, they put them out there first so they can land some body blows on the defense that opens up runs for like the second half. Like he's doing that on blitz pickup, which is pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet. Sending a message. Moving on to a guy you mentioned. I think a guy that you and I were both really big on pre-draft, still really big on him. Caleb Johnson, 8th overall in my super flex rookie rankings, down 1 spot. So probably that Travion Henderson flip-flop, Emeka Egbuka, a couple people slide in behind him. So just down 1 spot. Not the best, not the worst landing spot in Pittsburgh, kind of middle in that aspect. I believed in him as a prospect pre-draft. I still believe in him. Everything I saw in Iowa where he produced, and my whole take with Iowa is if you can produce on an Iowa Hawkeyes offense, that means you have a 100% chance of producing in the NFL because it's easier in the NFL to produce on offense than it is in Iowa. So that's kind of like my whole take on him. I thought he looked good film-wise. He had like 1 bad drop in the first week of the preseason. It's like, who cares? Not going to overreact to literally 1 play, but I am going to appropriately react to when he does look good. And I think he looks great. He'll probably be behind Jalen Warren for like the first quarter or the first half of the season. And by first half, I mean the first half of game 1. not the first 8 games. I think it's going to be like 1 or 2 quarters, and it's going to be Caleb Johnson's season. It's going to be that obvious. And he's built for it. He's built for like the Najee Harris role, and he's like a better version of Najee Harris, in my opinion. So that's why I have him at 8. I think another slightly less safe than Omarion, and maybe safer of a pick than Travion Henderson. But I have him here at 8 because I think his ceiling's a little bit capped compared to Travion. Ryan Perrio, what do you got?
I believe he's going to be the closer of the Pittsburgh offense. He's going to be if Pittsburgh's up by 3 at in the third or fourth quarter, he's going to get the ball 2 or 3 downs and just basically try to wear you out. Like that's what he's built for. He's the tenderizer. He should open the game, and then he should also close the game. And then you kind of sprinkle Jalen Ward in there in quarters 2 and 3 when you need a little spark. But I think you put him in there to tenderize the meat early, and then just to take their will late. Just football is a contact sport, and so you want the guy that makes contact basically not the preferred method. Like you want guys to start making business decisions.
And we're going to keep rolling right through this because you could say the same thing about this next guy, number 9 on my list, Cam Skattebo, the nature boy. I think my number 1 buy low candidate right now. Today, as we are recording, he just had his full first practice back. No reports on how he looked as of where we're sitting. I don't care. Like I said with Travion Henderson, the cream will rise to the top eventually. And that's the cool part about talking about Dynasty is like if he gets off to a slow start in the first 6 weeks of the season, like, who cares? I was very high on him pre-draft. I'm still obviously pretty high on him, although I will say I did bump him down a few spots because he did land on the Giants. Now, that's not the worst situation from how late he went in the draft because he would have had to beat out a lot better incumbent running backs. But Tyrone Tracy, I think, is sort of gettable. I think he will be the number 2 back on like week 1. It's just like how long is it going to take for that cream to rise to the top? And the good news is I think Daboll just gets fired after this year. So if Cam ends up not being Daboll's guy throughout the season, he will get a fresh look next season with a new head coach, which isn't always a great thing, not always a great sign. But in Dynasty, I'm going to bet on talent, and I think we got a talented one here in Cam Skattebo. So that's why I'm going to stick with that, Ryan Perrio.
I'm gonna say Stash. I think I'd still put him a little lower just because of the amount of time he's missed this preseason. I think and don't sleep on Tyrone Tracy, who was my Cam Skattebo last year. So I still have I love both of these guys. Like I said, they complement each other, but they also can do the same things very well for like catching. Like you don't have to sub them in and out. So I think they're good from a offensive standpoint to just. If the hot hand is rolling, you don't have to take one out because of the passing play. You just keep the hot hand in there, whether you're throwing him a pass or you're handing him the ball. I think both of them are wildly impressive. I I think it's going to be a timeshare. I think Tyron Tracy is going to get the majority of the first team reps, at least for the first 3 or 4 weeks. Hopefully Cam Scadaboo can stay healthy so that he can kind of show out there. I hate hamstring injuries, especially when you're doing a position where you have to kind of go all out in the open field. So hopefully they took the right precautions and he doesn't have any kind of setbacks. Yeah, I think he had one.
This is his second time around because they had him out for like 2 practices and then he tried to come back, and that's when I think like the bad injury happened. So I think once they did that, they're like, all right, we're slowing you way down in this recovery process. So I have to assume he is like 100%. Still disappointing that you come in and you get a hamstring injury when you should be in the best shape of your life, but sometimes hamstring injuries just happen. Maybe that is all it was. It's just kind of like a freak hamstring injury. Still not great for a 23-year-old rookie running back to come in and miss, a good chunk of camp with a hamstring. But it doesn't mean he's not going to have a great NFL career. So that's why I still got him going in my personal rankings in the first round. Moving on to number 10 on the list, one of your boys, Ryan Perrio, Jaden Higgins, Houston Texans, was kind of reported to be starter day one. Kind of sounds like he will be like at least that number 3 wide receiver on the football field early on in the season, which is awesome. I actually have him up 4 spots. I was way ahead of market, having him at 14 overall, and then he gets drafted very early by the Houston Texans. So I did move him up a little bit. I loved his size, but now the reports coming out of camp is like he's the day 1 starter. I'm like, yeah, nice. That's great. He will be behind. I don't think it's not getting talked quite enough about yet. Christian Kirk being like the clear number 2 on this football team. And Nico Collins obviously being the number 1 X receiver. So we'll see where Jaden Higgins mixes in. He looks great in preseason in a limited role. Like I said, he's kind of been rolling with mostly the starters, which is obviously a good sign. He's also behind Christian Kirk and Nico Collins. And that's kind of a good thing in a way because those guys are like the 2 most fragile wide receivers in the NFL right now who are, not named Tank Dell.
He's definitely outside 3 is what we are calling his position. Like he's a third wide receiver, but he's going to play outside. He's had some good moments. Both him and Jalen Noel have had also the welcome to the NFL where they think they got it and they kind of throw their hands up a little bit late and the ball goes right through their hands. Both of them had kind of plays where you're like, you should have caught that. You're coming back to the, kind of doing this on your way back to the huddle. But they've been really well. Like Jaden Higgins has only gotten, I think, 3 or 4 targets this preseason. He's run some decent routes. He's still the speeder is still a little slow, but I mean that's just something you get coached up year 1 to year 2. That's just a drill that it takes time. When you at the college level, you can have some sloppy, like little bit of sloppy footwork and still get open. At the NFL level, they've just got to work those feet nimble drills and just kind of work the little step net and things like that to try to get your feet moving. Cause the windows in the NFL are just so much smaller. You just got to have every single piece of advantage you possibly can. And that's the only thing is I've seen his feet and it's kind of like, he's kind of slow coming out of his breaks, but he's so big.
Yeah. Your feet are going to look like that sometimes when you're 6'4", and his feet kind of did look like that in college too. That's why he looks slower than he is. Yeah. Like his 40 time was great. Like, we never referenced 40 times, but I think he's actually fast and he looked fast on the field. So yeah, despite him having like not like the sharpest feet, I think he can kind of get away with it being 6'4", and I think the room to improve is there, and I think they will develop there in Houston. Moving on to tier 4. The tight end tier. We got 3 tight ends in tier 4. We are going to get through these guys, and this will actually be the end of the first episode, and then we're going to do a second episode, release a part 2 for the second round of this draft. So number 11, we've got Harold Fannin, my number 1 buy low candidate, and we haven't seen much of Harold Fannin in preseason, and it's because the Browns have not played their starters in preseason. And if you went back and looked at some of the camp film from early camp from Cleveland, in Berea, Ohio. You saw Harold Fannin running with the starters. You even saw a couple little highlights of him scoring some touchdowns here and there. I get it. He's behind David Njoku. So I do have him down one spot, but I had a massive positive projection for this guy coming out of college pre-draft. He was number one receiver, not even tight ends, number one receiver in all of college last season, and he was the only player to catch for over 100 yards against Penn State Nittany Lions. So I loved his film. Despite being from a small school, he played well against big schools. Flacco, by the way, I think Ryan Perrio and I were discussing this, and I totally called it. I said Flacco's day one starter. I guarantee it. And look, at lo and behold, he is. And it sounds like he's going to be the 17-week starter for them as well, obviously, as long as he doesn't suck. So I love Harold Fannin. I'm going to keep him ahead of the other two, despite him getting drafted way later. All signs and indications out of Cleveland are that he is a day one starter, and they're going to be running probably just like a lot of two tight end sets, if I had to guess, with him and David Njoku. Oh, Harold Fannin, by the way, film demon Ryan Perrio. Great run blocker, not a great pass blocker. So I would predict him on every passing opportunity to be running a route, and he'll still be on the field during run play. So you're good with him in both situations. So that's another reason why I love him.
Yeah.
Now, strategy-wise, if you are doing a rookie draft right now, I would recommend against drafting this guy in the first round just because of how the market sees him.
Yeah.
So I have him personally as 11 overall, but that doesn't mean necessarily draft him in the first round. If you really like him like I do, trade back and then get some draft picks plus Harold Fannin because he won't get drafted by any of your league mates in probably the top 15 in Superflex.
Yeah. Rookie tight ends are the biggest temptress in fantasy football drafts because it's such a position, like you can have such a positional dominance with the points if you get an elite tight end, producing tight end, but a lot of rookie tight ends just don't. Either one, the quarterback just doesn't have the trust with them to kind of become the safety blanket, or they just aren't trusted with as many snaps. It's just they may show out in college, but even Kyle Pitts, as good as he looked in college, he is just not panned out in the pros. And even when he was a rookie, Travis Kelce barely saw the field, even though like you watched the preseason of him that first year, and he's absolutely balling out. And they just didn't start him till like year 2 or 3, and then he started to really take off.
Yeah.
So tight ends are a slow burn. He's definitely a great stash for something, for a position that if he does play up to his potential, could be like an absolute killer for your team. Basically ensures you will win week in and week out just because you have an elite 20-point scoring tight end, which is the dream to have.
Rare. Yeah.
Rare.
Harold, by the way, 21 years old. So in dynasty purposes, he's like just turned 21. So over 2 years younger than the other two guys we're going to talk about in the same tier. Like you said, I have the same take on rookie tight ends. That's why I kind of have them all in the same tier at the beginning of the second round, end of the first round. Tyler Warren, also down one spot. First round pick in Indy in real life. Dan Jones, which I also called, by the way, the starter for the Indianapolis Colts this year, which I think is a big thumbs up for Tyler Warren. Looked great in preseason. Looked genuinely really, really good. Kind of had a weird role in Penn State where he was like kind of like a super duper Taysom Hill sort of thing, where he was like taking a lot of runs and stuff. He didn't really look that good with the ball in his hand, I didn't think. I don't know why they used him like that. Seems to be maybe better as a pass catcher, turns out, at least if the preseason is indication of that. So I like him here at 12. Pre-draft, I was expecting him to be the first drafted tight end, which is why I had him one spot ahead of where he was. Colson Loveland obviously got drafted ahead of him. So Ryan Perrio, Tyler Warren. Yeah,
he was it's one of those things where he's got so many skills that Penn State just tried to use him, and he's a physical guy. They used him at center, I think, at one point. Like they had him lined up as center, and then he would run a route, and it was very weird. Like he was a quarterback. I think Penn State coach the coach of the James Franklin's just trying to coach for his job and just trying to win every game he can by any gimmick he can. He's kind of the Brian Dable of the college football landscape. He's an elite college team, but he's always underwhelmed every season. So, until he wins the Big Ten, I think it's just he was wasted. I think he's an elite physical mismatch. Like, he kind of reminds me kind of the Gronkowski of even if you have him covered, he can still catch the ball.
Open.
Yeah.
Yep. And he's got more size than Harold too. I believe off the top of my head, I think he measured out at like 6'5", 6'4".
Yeah.
I think Loveland measured out at the combine at like 6'6". So those guys are way, way bigger, but Harold Fannin, I think, was just like 6'1" or 6'2". And that's why I think a few people got off him, but I'm holding on to my priors until further notice. We'll see. Moving on to the last tight end of the tier here. Number 13, I got ranked Colson Loveland, the first drafted tight end in this class. I actually have him up 2 spots in my pre-draft rankings. I think I'm still probably like a hater in terms of like where I have him drafted here compared to where the market has him. So I would be, maybe if you have him or whatever reason, be a buy or sell high rather. He was the first tight end drafted. It was drafted with great draft capital. However, he is going up against Cole Kmet for targets and for play time. There's what I would consider a massive question mark. Now, everyone else is 100% sure that the new head coach and the new staff there, it's going to just work day one. It's going to be awesome. And they're probably going to be on a Super Bowl next year or whatever. I don't know if that's the case. So I would consider that to be a big question mark in terms of situation there. Now, I will say it never hurts when you have a new head coach and the first move they make is overdrafting you in the NFL draft. So, glowing remarks coming out of camp. He was injured for a lot of it with like a shoulder injury that I didn't think anybody really knew the extent of pre-draft or even after he was drafted. It didn't really come out until like everyone was like at minicamp, like what's up? Why isn't Colston playing? It's like, oh, he's hurt. He got a shoulder. So might get off to a little bit of a slow start. And kind of for all those reasons, I have him behind the other 2 tight ends in this draft class that were drafted, relatively high. I do have a lot of tight ends that didn't even make the top 24 that were drafted ahead of Harold Fannin, by the way. So there is that as well. But your last remarks to end the episode on Colson Loveland, Ryan Perrio.
I think it's a very weird situation. I think it'd be one thing if they had a veteran, like a veteran offense, and he was like the missing piece. Usually when you draft a tight end, that's the last piece of the puzzle. Usually you have your quarterback, your wide receiver, your RB, you have your offense. You just need that safety valve. And it just feels to me like the Chicago has none of those things, or at least has not figured out what those things are. Like it seems like this is a dart throw of nothing on this draft board really is what I wanted to pick. Like, I think he wanted Tedero McMillan or some other offensive weapon that didn't fall to him. And so I think this was kind of a reach on the Bears' part, and it's kind of panning out that way. Like, I don't see, Colston, plays just designed for Colston Loveland. Like, you're not seeing, and I think it's a case of rookie head coach got caught on the clock with no backup plan, and they just kind of pick the guy and say, that's going to be our guy. And
then sold the shit out of him. Kind of like when they overcompensated, who, by the way, Travis Hunter, obviously falling deep down my rankings, not in the first round, not a first round pick. Whenever you get to see the GM or the head coach who obviously called the shot on that play, like, get up into a microphone and be like, we love Colson Loveland. This guy, he's unbelievable. I can't believe what he's going to bring to our offense. Meanwhile, at the time of him saying that, he hadn't seen him in a Bears jersey yet because he was injured. So just like, how do you love the guy so much when you haven't even seen him on your practice field? But anyways, yeah, maybe an indication of overcompensation there. This one went long. Did not expect it to go this long, but we should have known. So we are going to take, in real life right now, Ryan Perry and I are going to take a short break. We're going to fly through the second round, though, because we don't have any honorable mentions or my pre-draft to go over again. So we'll go hit the ground running for tier 5 and on the other top 24.
Motivated.
For Ryan Perrio, my name's Jamie Jakes. Please subscribe to the channel. You guys have been loving our Dynasty content, which is why we keep doing it. So as long as you guys keep watching, we'll keep going, maybe even into the NFL season. Kind of keep an eye on trades you can be hitting for win now or how to build for the future is maybe what we will do if you guys keep watching. So keep it up. Thank you guys for watching our Superflex Dynasty content, and we will see y'all next time for our round 2, 14 to 24 picks.